I mean, you're there for the cause, absolutely sincerely, but also the cause is there for you, a little. Am I wrong?
I don't, you're so different than me that it's hard for me sometimes to even understand what you're talking about.
Really? So we must have a lot in common.
I don't think we do. I've never heard about men getting pregnant. I've never heard about this argument. It must be some part of what you call the far left that is so minuscule that I, who am...
No, Jane.
What?
It's not minuscule, and I'm sorry, you can't throw this back on us. I assume it's because you are locked into media that just never wants anyone in their audience to know anything sketchy about the blue team.
Bill Maher didn't just host another celebrity conversation, he staged a reality check on Jane Fonda. Jane showed up to promote her usual Hollywood activism, assuming Maher would nod along like most interviewers do. But this time, she met someone who wasn't there to flatter her or protect her narrative.
You really don't believe that the state we live in, California, is lacking regulation. There's over 300,000 regulations. I mean,
Well, maybe they're needed.
They're not.
The tension started early when Maher brought up California. He pointed out that California has turned into a one-party state. He called it out for being overtaxed, overregulated, and trapped under layers of policies pushed by the far left. In Maher's view, California isn't progressive. It's broken by extremism disguised as progress.
You've never heard that California is overtaxed and overregulated? That we are a one-party state where there's sort of no checks on that sort of extreme leftism.
Fonda didn't buy it. She jumped in right away saying California isn't extreme at all. To her, the state's problems aren't about bad policies. They're about right-wing criticism or systemic obstacles. But Maher wasn't having it.
We are a one-party state where there's sort of no checks on that sort of extreme leftism. And what do you think?
I don't for a minute consider California a state that is extreme leftist. Not at all, not any way.
Well, that shows where your politics are. That's not where mine are.
This moment changed the tone instantly. Maher wasn't just talking about California anymore. He was exposing the far left bubble, the tendency of people in elite circles, especially in Hollywood, to ignore the real-world results of their beliefs. Then came the part when Maher said, "The far left has gone crazy." He argued that plenty of Americans who don't support Trump still feel alienated by how extreme progressive activism has become. The constant moral policing, the cancel culture, the denial of basic facts for the sake of identity politics. And when he said that, Fonda started accusing him of echoing right-wing talking points. But Maher didn't back down.
They just think the far left has gone so nutty on so many issues.
That's what they're being told.
That's what
By people like you.
Because it's true. You think the far left does nothing crazy?
Oh, I'm sure they do.
Oh, well then...
But I don't know, who is the far left? What do you mean when you say far left?
I mean, I could give you a million examples.
Yeah, well, give me one.
Okay, the NAACP.
You think the NAACP is far
left? Could I
left?
finish my sentence?
Yes.
When Fonda pushed Maher to give an example of what he meant by the far left going crazy, he didn't hesitate. He brought up the NAACP's travel advisory, the one warning Black Americans not to visit Florida.
The NAACP last year issued a travel advisory. You know, that's like the State Department does to go to, I'm sure when you went to Vietnam, they were advising you not to. There's a war on it.
I didn't talk to them. I don't have no.
I know, but you know a travel advisory.
Yeah.
Today we have them for very dangerous countries. You
Yeah.
know, don't go to North Korea. Don't go to Iran.
Yeah.
You know where they issued a travel advisory for Black people not to go?
Yeah.
Florida.
Maher pointed out how that kind of exaggerated outrage doesn't just sound ridiculous to most people, it ignores real issues. When everything becomes a crisis, nothing stands out as one anymore. And that's exactly what Maher was getting at. The left has gotten so comfortable inflating outrage that they've started losing credibility with everyday Americans. He wasn't mocking racism or pretending discrimination doesn't exist. His point was that performative activism often turns complex social issues into political stunts that help no one. Fonda, though, didn't see it that way. She interpreted his criticism as dismissing legitimate concerns about race, but Maher stayed firm. He clarified that exaggeration isn't activism. and people outside elite circles can tell the difference. Fonda's discomfort in that moment showed how many activists cling to slogans, even when the real-world meaning behind them starts to fade. Then came the part that really tested their ideological distance, the gender debate.
You really think men can get pregnant? You know, that kind of stuff. And I understand that a trans woman can get pregnant. That's different than a man getting pregnant. And the way they sort of insist on blurring that line is if that's some sort of reasonable social cause, as opposed to just being for having full rights, respect, and protection for trans people.
Maher brought up one of his most controversial examples, men getting pregnant. He clarified it carefully. Yes, a trans man, someone born biologically female, can get pregnant. But that's not the same as saying a man gets pregnant. To him, this confusion is exactly what happens when politics tries to overrule science. Fonda's response was almost dismissive. She said she'd never even heard of that argument, calling it minuscule and irrelevant.
So I've never heard about men getting pregnant. I've never heard about this argument. It must be some part of what you call the far left that is so minuscule that I, who am...
No, Jane,
What?
It's not minuscule, and I'm sorry, you can't throw this back on us. I assume it's because you are locked into media that just never wants anyone in their audience to know anything sketchy about the blue team.
Fonda tried to minimize the issue as fringe or exaggerated, but Maher showed ignoring uncomfortable debates keeps the far left out of touch with how regular people think. The discussion stopped being about gender and became about denial. It exposed how people in closed ideological circles often don't even realize what conversations are happening outside their bubble.
I should watch Fox News.
No,
I guess.
I don't watch that. That's too far.
Maher didn't stop at culture war topics like gender or woke language. He went straight into politics and policy. Specifically, the one slogan that he says perfectly sums up how the far left hijacked liberalism: defund the police. He reminded Fonda that after George Floyd's passing, the country had a real moment. People across races and political lines agreed that policing needed reform. More accountability, more training, more transparency. But instead of building on that unity, activists turned it into a slogan that scared off moderates and confused the people it was meant to help.
Defund the police, though, was not a good idea. And you know who mostly didn't think it was a good idea was black people, because they want police in their neighborhoods, probably more than we need them in ours.
Maher pointed out that most Black Americans never supported defunding the police. Poll after poll showed they wanted better policing. Yet, a small but loud group of activists pushed defund like it was a moral badge, and anyone who questioned it got labeled as racist. Even Democratic politicians knew it was political suicide. They distanced themselves as fast as they could once they saw how bad the message played in real communities. But by then, the damage was done.
The Democratic politicians were not for defunding the police. It's that radical fringe that has captured a lot of the media, academia, some of these cultural institutions that are not liberal anymore by my old school liberalism.
Maher's argument was simple. The far left fringe had taken over the conversation, and liberals who should have known better stayed silent out of fear. He took it further, explaining how this isn't just about slogans. It's about institutions, academia, media, even organizations that once stood for open debate and free speech. Maher mentioned groups like the ACLU, which used to be the gold standard for civil liberties. But today, he said, it's shifted from defending rights to defending ideology. He gave an example that stuck with viewers. A trans ACLU leader once said they would die on the hill of banning a book. For Maher, that was the breaking point. The ACLU, an organization built on fighting censorship, now defending it? That, he said, showed just how far modern liberalism had drifted from its roots.
The fringe that has captured a lot of the media, academia, some of these cultural institutions that are not liberal anymore by my old school liberalism. The ACLU is all about free speech. They don't really believe in it anymore. They believe, in one of their chief people who is trans said, I will die on this hill of banning this book, which was a very reasonable book about a subject that's still debatable.
Old school liberals like Maher grew up believing in free speech. even for views they hated. The new left, in his view, believes in speech only if it aligns with their values. That's not progress, it's regression. And what frustrates him most is how few people within that movement speak up. He said the silence from mainstream liberals isn't agreement, it's fear. Fear of being canceled, fear of losing work, fear of being labeled problematic. It's not that everyone agrees with the far left, it's that they're too scared to challenge it. And that silence is how the takeover happens, slowly, through intimidation masked as morality. Now we want to hear from you. Do y'all think Bill Maher went too far with Fonda, or was he just saying what a lot of people are too afraid to say out loud? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you found this video useful, hit that like button and subscribe for more videos like this. See you next time.